Hello Game Boys and Game Girls, I'm the Game Boy Guru, and welcome to episode 5 of Re-Unboxing. This time, I'm going to be taking a look at this big box here, which is mostly Genesis boxed games. Got a handful of Sega Master System games, as well as some 2600 carts that I used to kind of fill in the spaces. So let's take a look. Alright, first up, one of my favorite Genesis games, Shinobi 3. Then we've got EA Air Force F-22 Interceptor. We have Forgotten Worlds, which has the hang tab, although it's a little bent from being in the box. We've got Mickey Mania, The Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse. Jurassic Park. Insector X. Solid shoot 'em up there. My original copy of Sonic the Hedgehog that came with my Genesis, and unfortunately it's well loved over the years, but not for resale there. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Flashback, The Quest for Identity. Ms. Pac-Man. Jewel Master, a little bit of a favorite there. One that I spent quite a bit of time with when I was working third shift. And my absolute favorite Sega Genesis game, Lightning Force, aka Thunder Force 4. Fantastic game, amazing soundtrack, an absolute must-have. There's another copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for some reason. I know I had the original and I thought I had the not for resale somewhere, but for whatever reason I've got 2 copies. Might be because my Sega Genesis Model 2 that I bought secondhand may have come with that as well. There's Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Fantasia, one of the games I had as a kid and drove me up the wall, so after I beat it I sold it, but decided to reacquire it recently. Another personal favorite, Mystic Defender. Fantastic game, awesome soundtrack. Still holds up pretty well, even though it's an early post-launch platformer. It certainly has aged far better than Last Battle. Now let's get some of these Atari 2600 carts out of the way. We've got Commando by Activision, which I'm told is actually a competent port. Haven't plugged that one in yet. The Earth Dies Screaming. I just love that name. Hero, of course. Classic. Something the Metal Jesus features on every episode. Kung Fu Master. Slightly lesser known game, Jawbreaker. Got Kangaroo, one of my favorites from childhood. My next door neighbor had that and we played it a lot. Video Pinball. Fast Eddie. MASH. And an iMagic game, Dragonfire. Haven't played that one. Alright, back to more Genesis games here. This is Garfield Caught in the Act. NFL Football 94 starring Joe Montana. And I think this is out separate from the Sports Talk line. I don't think there's anything
any of that in there. Then we've got Sonic Spinball. Got Ranger X. Here's Tasmania. Genesis port of the Neo Geo game Viewpoint, which is actually superior to the PlayStation version, believe it or not. There's Wings of War, also known as Gynaug. Really good sort of faux Greek mythology themed shoot 'em up. Really hard. X-Men, and it says special edition poster inside, which that's in there. The poster, the manual, and everything are in there. This is Toki going ape spit. Like Fantasia, this game frustrated me as a kid. I played it, beat it, said I was never going to play it again, and sold it. But I got a hankering for it again and bought it, went back to it, and it's not as hard as I thought it was. Or it's not as hard as I remember it being. Here's Hang On and Astro Warrior for the Sega Master System. Here's Taz in Escape from Mars for the Genesis. Gunstar Heroes, absolute classic. Thunder Force 2, another classic. Battleship. Star Trek: The Next Generation. Starflight. I have the thick manual with this. The only thing I'm missing is the map. Steel Empire. Fun steampunk shoot 'em up. Phelios, another solid Greek mythology themed shoot 'em up on the Genesis. And Quackshot, another childhood favorite. Bought this when I got my Genesis. Didn't understand the sort of light Metroidvania elements because I was used to straightforward games, so I put it down. And when I went back to it and finally figured it out, I loved it. Here's Revenge of Shinobi, and if memory serves, this is the original release, 1.0 or whatever it was, that had most of the copyrighted material, shall we say, that they ripped off. There's Road Rash 2. Shadow Blasters, an interesting, if somewhat mediocre, action platformer. There's Shadow Dancer, The Secret of Shinobi, which is Shadow Dancer in the arcade was the direct sequel to the first Shinobi game, but the Genesis version is not a port of that, but rather a totally new game with the same mechanics. So, good game. Here's Super Street Fighter 2. Yeah, Super Street Fighter 2, not Turbo. Streets of Rage 2. Total classic. Strider, a game that I spent an inordinate amount of time on as a youth. Subterranea, good game. Airbuster, one of my more recent acquisitions. Actually here in the city I've just recently moved to. One of the handful of Genesis shoot 'em ups that has eluded me for many years. This is Mazen Saga Mutant Fighter. Picked that up a few months ago. Zero Tolerance. One of the only first-person shoot 'em ups on the Genesis. Shadow of the Beast. Port of the Amiga game. Tin Head, which I showed off a few weeks ago. Sunset Riders, which I was very happy to get at a good price randomly here earlier last year. Chuck Rock 2, Son of Chuck. X-Mutants. Another recent acquisition is Twin Cobra. Fantastic arcade shooter, and by all accounts this is a better port than the NES version. Although I don't hate the NES version like most people seem to. Also have Shinobi. Unfortunately, my copy of Shinobi, the case is really beat up. And inside of the Shinobi is my Transbot card game. I don't know why, but I always keep it in there just because. At some point I need to upgrade to a copy of, or to a clamshell that's not in quite such bad shape. You've got Fantasy Zone 2 for the Master System. I'd like to get the Master System version of the original Fantasy Zone because I've had the NES port by Tengen for years, and I've heard that is not a good port, but I've always enjoyed it. So I'd like to compare the two. Double Dragon, which some people swear by the Master System version because it's more accurate to the arcade, but it is so flickery that I think it's kind of garbage. I would much rather play the NES version, but it can still be fun. The Sega Master System version of Columns, which is quite similar to what we saw in the Game Gear as well. Bomber Raid, one of the handful of Master System games in a black box, similar to a Genesis game. This is a 1942, 1943 style World War II-esque shoot-'em-up. Good game. And Afterburner. And the SMS port of Afterburner is surprisingly competent. Got a handful of additional 2600 games in here, so we'll just go through those quickly. We've got Frogger, Sword Quest Earthworld, classic. We've got Alien from 20th Century Fox, Bugs, which I had never heard of before I picked it up, Beam Rider, which I believe I also have, or might have, on ColecoVision. Got Cosmic Arc from iMagic. Another iMagic here game, No Escape. Pressure Cooker. Miner 2049er, which I mentioned on my first video that I have for Game Boy. And Telegames 23, which is Catch, Ricochet, Lightning Ball, and Fireball. So I don't think I've ever played that one. Alright. That is everything in that box. Lots of cool stuff in there, lots of great games. Any of those strike your fancy? I haven't touched any of these 2600 games, so I know I showed them off in a previous pickups video, but let me know if there's anything in here that you think I ought to be playing right away. I know Single Banana is going to say that I need to get on Jawbreaker right away. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of that. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at GameBoyGuru. Check out my game reviews on my blog, GameBoyGuru.blogspot.com. Also make sure you check out Nira and his channel. He provided the Super Mario Land first level overworld theme that I use as the intro music to all my videos. He's got lots of other great chiptune and game music covers, so go check those out. Thanks for watching, thanks for playing, and game on.